Today, we're going to be pulling a good cast from a bad mold. Now, as the adage goes, that's something that can't be done. But, given the development of new materials, it can be done with a little bit of work. Now, I have right here a sword, and I've already done the one half of the sword, the more complicated half. You can see this is the inside. I'll show you the flip side, the side that's meant to be exposed. You can see it came out pretty well. And here we have the other side, the less complicated side. This is a polyurethane rubber mold with a plaster mother mold. And you can see it's kind of busted over here and it's kind of ripped up. This thing's been through quite a few castings, so it's kind of beat up. So what we're going to use today is Freeform Air. It's a epoxy putty that I got from Smooth On. It's extremely lightweight, as the name Air implies, but it's actually reasonably hard. You can see here, there's a slight discoloration between here and here. This here is cast resin, and this is the air. And you can hear when I tap it, it makes a nice hard sound. It's cured for about 24 hours. Now on the inside, you can see there's a shiny bit here. That's the cast resin. What I basically did was I put the freeform putty around the edges because they were kind of hard to get. It was hard to get a good buildup because the mold is awfully heavy, because I made it that way, because I'm a dope. And then I backed it with resin. And when both sides are done, I'll throw them together and I'll putty them up along the edges and then pour a little bit more resin on the inside just to make sure that everything's all nice and tidy. So anyway, once again, here's the mold, and here are my already prepared parts A, made into nice little cubes or little squares, and parts B, also made in similar sized cubes and squares. And I've got a little bit left in the tins as well. And after I use them, I'll be using the resin that I got from US Composites. It's a Easy Flow 60, and I'll use that to back it. Alright, so we'll be back and we'll get started. Okay, so we're back. We've got our freeform epoxy putty, part A, part B. And here we have the same things. Here in little cube forms. So I'm going to take one, and I'll take the other. And I like to squish them down like that, and then start mixing them together. And if you can, it's a good idea to mix over the surface on which you're going to apply them, because sometimes little bits fall off. It's kind of dry, so little bits might fall off. The one is gray and the other is white, so you can pretty easily see the difference between the two. This stuff can be a little finicky to apply because it kind of likes to stick to the nitrile gloves and doesn't stick so much to the surface. And I will say that the part B smells terrible, so just be prepared for that if you happen to pick any of this stuff up. So I'm going to mix this up. Got to get a nice thorough mixture. It's the best way to guarantee the best results. And I'm going to start applying it. This mold has a lot of problem areas, so I'm going to start with the most problem areas first, which is down here. I've actually added a little bit of clay to the mold just to give it a little bit better form. I'm just going to press this in there. Now, like I said, I played with this yesterday, so I've gotten a little bit better at handling it. But still, it's not the easiest thing to handle. It's not the easiest thing to get off of the gloves. It likes to come with you. So if you can, you want to get one finger on and then kind of press it in. If you've got more than one finger on it, it's probably going to want to come with you. So get one finger on it and press it in. Now it'll be really, really soft and workable for about half an hour. And then after about an hour it gets a little bit stiffer, but not significantly so. So you can still push it around an hour later, and it might even be a little bit more easily worked at that time. So we got things started in this area here. I'm going to use up this little Cuban and mix up another. Let's see this one. This one's being a little pain. Wants to come with me. Now, like I said with the other mold, I have to get around these edges because it's hard to get the liquid resin up into them. But this putty is really great for that, because you just build this up around the edge, and then when I go to put my molds together, I'll have a nice thick area to work with. It won't be too brittle like it would be otherwise. So I'm going to take another cube here. Now, I'm not worrying too much about contamination because I'm going to mix all these up right now, but you might want to consider using one pair of gloves for the other, or making them more easily available so that you don't have to really get in there with your gloves, because cross-contamination can be a problem. You wind up setting off the reaction, and then your product won't be as good in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this around the edges after I mix it up. Gotta mix thoroughly. The part A actually looks just like marshmallows. You could almost eat it. The gray stuff, on the other hand, it smells like, I don't know, it kind of smells like the ocean on a bad day. So if you can do this in a place that's well ventilated, or, I don't know, shove some cotton balls in your nose or something like that, that might be a good idea. So I'm just going to press this in there. It goes nicely onto itself, which is not too surprising, I guess, but it helps if you already have some down in terms of getting it on, because like I said, it likes to stick to your gloves. Build it nice and thick down here. Okay, now we're going to skip ahead. Okay, so we're back, and I've put the putty around all of the edges. You can see I'm going to pan over the edges really quickly. You see some other shiny stuff there. That is not putty. That is actually resin that I've added. It's a Easy Flow 60 with just a single drop of black coloring. Easy Flow 60 is normally a really bright white color, so if you add a little drop of black, it'll turn to this gray color. And I only added the resin so that I could move it. There's this part down here where the mold is very well and busted up. So I didn't want to move it without putting a little bit of rigid structure there first. So I put the resin in, which sets up nice and quickly. I figured at this point it's a good idea to mention that the putty actually takes about 24 hours to set up, secure completely. Now I would say that you can safely move it within 20 hours. Maybe you could even go to 16. But I would say before that you want to really give it all the time it needs to set up completely. And yeah, so the other piece, which I did yesterday, that set up nice and firmly, and I moved that after about 16 hours. So I would say if you must move it, 16 hours would be the least amount of time. And you can see here I've put a tube that was from a roll of wrapping paper or something like that in there, just to give it a little bit more structure and to guide the resin when I pour it in. I actually cut a little hole in there just so that the resin doesn't build up too much in the tube, because that wouldn't be a very good use of resin. Later on, I'm considering backfilling everything with an expandable foam, so I want to keep this center area nice and open. I've done that for the other half as well. But at the rate things are going, that might not necessarily be something that I would want to do, especially given the nature of the expanding foam. But what I might want to do later is, after I put them together and putty up around the edges and let that cure, I might want to throw an extra little bit of resin in there just to make sure that I get all the thin spots and then roll it around. Right, so we'll be back with the finished resined up project in just a moment. Now I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but here's the finished product. Both halves put together. You can see the seam here. Just turn it around here. You see the seam seems pretty nice. It's been put together with the same epoxy resin that was used in the beginning. Start here at the handle, and then down here at the end. Maybe focus on that there. Yeah. Now, this did take a lot of work, and to say that I got a good cast out of a bad mold would still be somewhat inaccurate, because basically, after the fact of casting it, I had to do all this work to fix it up. So, I wouldn't say that I've proved the adage wrong so much as I've proved the adage right, that if you want to get a good cast and not have a tremendous amount of work to do after the fact, then you best put a lot of effort into making a good mold. That's pretty good advice, and it seems to hold true. So, later on, at some point, I'll have a video or image of the completed blazing falchion sword and shield, which hasn't even started. Anyway, thanks for watching.